Hello, I am Oliver of The Brave Adventures, and today I will be taking a look at Wildstar, the new MMORPG by Carbine Studios, and whether or not this is worth your money. So without further ado, here are my thoughts on Wildstar. Disclaimer, please keep in mind this is only based on my thoughts and my experience in the open and closed beta, as well as information that I have heard from events and people that I trust. Also keep in mind that the only other two MMORPGs that I have personally played are a lot of World of Warcraft and a bit of Star Wars The Old Republic. When you first set foot in Wildstar, you are met with the silly nature of an MMORPG that seems to take pride in its silly and cartoony feel. Everything from the character design right down to the voice and feel of the different key characters of the lore signifies that this is a game that does not take itself too seriously. And frankly, in a scene that is predominantly filled with badass protagonists and giant killer dragons, it's nice to see that there is still room for a game with psychotic hamsters and square pigs. When I first took a look at Wildstar, I thought it looked like it was set within the WoW universe with the UI of Star Wars The Old Republic and the control scheme of Forge. And like another of the newer MMORPGs, Wildstar has sprinting with supplementing stamina bar. And of course, it also has one of the most awesome features ever, which is double jumping. Just so you know, you don't get a good way into the game ignoring tooltips because you've played WoW for a long time and you know exactly what this game is about, and therefore you don't need help before accidentally pressing shift and realize that there might be some added movement features that you never noticed. Now you will have already heard me mention WoW a couple of times, and of course the question whenever a new MMORPG arises is, how does it differ from WoW? So, let me tell you about the combat. When you actually start doing combat in this game, you will discover a mechanic that will make it fundamentally different from your average button mashing MMORPG. Although you still have your normal hotkey system, nothing in this game is based upon the notion of selecting a target and choosing to hit that target with an ability. Every single ability is telegraphed. And what is a telegraph? Well, let me show you. This is a telegraph. Now, although this is somewhat triangular, telegraphs come in all shapes and sizes. In the beginning they will mainly be triangular, probably to get you used to the system, but as you move on they will become circles, circles within circles, and have just flat out weird patterns. But really those weird telegraphed attacks are of no use to you, but however they are of use to your enemies, because every single enemy in this game also have telegraphed attacks, meaning that besides being mentally present to hit your abilities, you also have to watch out and dodge most of your enemies' attacks. I say most because unlike yourself, your enemies do actually have normal basic attacks that aren't telegraphed, but all enemies do have telegraphed abilities. Also, some of the attack animations are pretty great. To level up you will, to no surprise really, be doing questing, at the very least until you reach a level high enough to start doing stuff like PvP. And really, questing is nothing out of the ordinary, it is what you'd expect from your standard MMORPG. Go over here, kill some stuff, collect this, talk to this guy. And of course every once in a while you might find a quest which is actually fun. Like this one, where we literally just got a ball to kick at people, at mobs, at a base, at quest giver. Although that isn't really any different from the questing as we know it from WoW. One cool addition they have made though is that in kill quest, which I personally think are the most boring of quests, you don't just have to kill a set amount of stuff. You have a percentage bar that fills up, and the larger harder monsters count for a higher percentage than your average mobs. Now obviously the Telegraph-based combat system is pretty skill based, making it perfect for PvP. And, as Wildstar said in their own PvP dev speak,
basically, we're big fans of PvP.
So, let's take a look at the different types of PvP combat that you will be thrown into in Wildstar. The first content you will unlock outside of questing is PvP, more specifically Battlegrounds. And we all know that the biggest problem in Battlegrounds or in PvP in general is imbalance in level and stats. So, if you are not max level, you will automatically be set to the same level and equivalent stats as everyone else in the battleground, making it solely based on skill and mastering the telegraph-based combat. Now I have only tried the first battleground. This is called Walatiki Temple. This is a capture the flag style game mode in which objects are called Moody Mask and they spawn all around the map. Your job is to collect 5 masks before the other faction does. Now, here's the twist. Both factions start with one mask already in their base. And of course you might say, well, that means you only have to capture 4 masks, doesn't it? Wrong, because you are able to steal enemy masks. All you have to do is run into their base, grab one of their masks, and run all the way back to your own base. This makes for some interesting combat mechanics because you can be behind 4-0 and potentially end up shutting them out. They claim to have put this kind of twist on every single one of their battlegrounds, and don't worry, there are other battlegrounds. We just haven't tried them yet. But there are still 2 more types of PvP combat that you will engage in. However, as far as I know, these last 2 only unlock at max level. The first one being your standard arena. Now, I don't know anything about arenas, to be fairly honest. The only thing I know is that you have a shared pool of respawns. Yeah, I know. It's kind of disappointing, really. It's an arena. What do you want from me? However, there is still one type of PvP left, and that is actually the one that I think will be the most awesome? War plots. Now, war plots are a player versus player game mode. Oh really? In which you create a war party of at least 40 people. Now, I'm pretty sure you can have up to 80 people in this war party, just so you know, you don't have to count on every guy being online all the time, because there's always this one guy that just decides that, oh, it's war plots night, but I'm just gonna not be online because I have my fucking nephew that always needs to fucking... God damn it, Jerry! But yeah, I believe you can have up to 80 people in your war party. However, only 40 of them can go into a battle at once, where they will be pit against another war party of 40 people. But now you might be asking, what differs this from just being an arena with 40 people on each side? And that, my friend, is the cool part. Because you see, each war party gets a base. Oh, a base. Well, that's original. That is fully customizable. You get to put whatever you please in your base. Offensive and defensive wise, I actually heard that when you take down a raid boss, he might drop an item which lets you put that boss in your war plot. Now how cool is that? So yeah, to sum it up, war plots is 40 people battling against 40 people to take down the enemy base as fast as possible. Now some of you might say that you've only talked about the combat and the PvP, and I want to battle large monsters and save the land from the threats and the monsters. And yes, of course, it wouldn't be a proper MMORPG if you weren't able to group up and fight monsters of varying sizes. So here are the different types of PvE content that Wildstar has to offer. First up, we have the adventures. Now, if you were to compare adventures in Wildstar to anything that I personally know, it would be the scenarios in WoW, but really it is more of a choose your own adventure kind of deal. Before we go into how adventures work, you need to know the setting. The Caretaker, an ancient Elden AI, has set up a simulation in which he will test you and your friends. Now this basically means that nothing of what happens in an adventure is real, but a simulation made up by the Caretaker, who has gone slightly mad over the couple thousand years he's been abandoned by the Elden. So now you know the setting. Let's get on with it then. Adventures is, as I said before, probably closest related to scenarios in WoW, in the sense that they are very story driven, but along the way you get to make decisions that branch out the story in a different way. For instance, in the first Dominion adventure there are 3 different bosses. However, there are only 2 boss battles, meaning that depending on what you choose, you may fight different bosses. And besides that, at least 2 of the bosses can be either the first or the last boss. This creates a lot of replayability and makes things less stale. Say that 3 times fast. Now, dungeons. Of course, these are also a part of Wildstar, and at first glance they appear to be similar to your average run-of-the-mill dungeon, with a couple of trash packs and a few bosses. However, the real difference comes from the difference in combat, and the fact that Wildstar does not give a shit how much you complain. As explained earlier, the telegraphs of the enemy monsters is something that every player should move out of, the tank as well, and is heavily used in Wildstar. In some WoW dungeons there are also telegraphed abilities or something similar, and most of these abilities may take out about 25 or in severe cases 50% of the tank's health. Now I did the first dungeon in Wildstar as a tank, And the telegraphed abilities of the trash packs took out at least 50% of my health. And some of the boss's telegraphed attacks took out 80+% of my health. So dodging is an absolute must. On top of the dodging aspects, there is the interrupt armor system. Interrupt armor basically means that in order to interrupt an enemy in doing something that you might want to interrupt him in doing, you're going to have to use X number of interrupt abilities. This means that teamwork and coordination is a must, making it harder, but by no means impossible, to run through dungeons with a puck group. Now, how do you know how many abilities to use for your interrupt armor? Simple really, the number is right there. The last part of PvE content. Raids. And as I haven't played further than level 20, I have not tried the raids. But I do have it on good word from the Wildstar dev speak on raids and information from various events that Wildstar has learned from some of the worst mistakes that a lot of newcoming MMORPGs have made in the past, and made sure that they have plenty of in-game content. I've been told that the devs have said that they have 1.5 years of in-game content planned after the release. If you want to know more about the raids, do yourself a favor and watch the raid dev speak, which will be linked in the description. Crafting in MMORPGs has mainly been an assembly line since it was first introduced, and it actually still is in Wildstar, but there are some elements in Wildstar that will make you very excited, at least if you're into crafting already. You are met with a menu that is very similar to the one you know, but the real magic is in the specialization. In the crafting menu there are 3 underlying menus: the schematics, which is your crafting overview, the tech tree, and talents. And these last 2 tabs are the tabs that add something different to the crafting. The tech tree is tasks that you must complete in order to unlock different schematics. And most importantly, talent points, which is to no surprise spent in the last tab, talents. The talent system allows you to customize the way you personally craft within your trade skill. For instance, you can as a weaponsmith choose to specialize in melee weapons that have a higher chance of getting a certain stat. This allows for customization, or maybe even if you're hardcore, allows you to make several characters with the same trade skill in order to get everything. You know, if that's what you're into. If you want more information, because there is still something to go over, I will link a video in the description about more detailed crafting. Now, the last part I want to talk about is housing, because housing has never been available in any of the other MMORPGs that I have personally played. So, I have nothing to compare it to. But I can tell you what it is. Housing in Wildstar is not just a game of, hey, look at me, I have the money to spare on this giant house for no apparent reason. They actually serve a purpose. For instance, you can place down plots of land which has resources for your trade skills. And later in the game you also gain access to stuff like a raid portal. And you are of course able to customize your house to suit your needs. But what do you get out of customizing your house? Well, some decker has 1 of 5 buffs. There's comfort, pride, ambience, lighting, and aroma. And really there is no point in me telling you the name of these, because all you need to know is that there are 5 different buffs that do the exact same thing. They all give you bonus rested experience. So really these buffs aren't the center of housing. The center of housing comes from plopping down additional plots of land, like the raid portal. And making it so that you have easy access to whatever you feel you need easy access to. Also you can make jumping puzzles. Because why not? So now that I've gone over everything that I thought was worth of you knowing about this game, and a little extra, here's what the whole thing is actually about. Is Wildstar worth your money? Now, keep in mind that this is still only my opinion, and you should take it with a grain of salt, but with that being said, here we go. I first played Wildstar in closed beta to find out if I should pre-order it, and I played it for 2 days and instantly pre-ordered it, because obviously I thought it's worth my money. But do keep in mind that I have played WoW up until this point, and to be perfectly honest, I'm highly likely to return to WoW again, but Wildstar seems to have what I enjoy about WoW. I've raided a few times, but honestly, the reason I play WoW at the end of the day is because it has millions of ways to waste time. It has so much content. In Wildstar, however, I might actually try and dip into the PvE stuff, but I always end up feeling like PvE, like being on point on raid night, it just ends up feeling like a job to me. Although Wildstar looks very kid friendly, their dungeons have mechanics that you would normally only see in raids and other games. And most importantly, it is hard enough, at least in the beginning, to encourage teamwork and a good spirit. I did a dungeon run, which is right here on this channel, and we died a lot. But not once was there a bad attitude from the other players. Of course, this is more down to the player base than anything else, but if this is to be any indication of what's to come, I'm very excited. Wildstar seems to be focused on people that used to play WoW but quit because it was too easy. And one of the key figures in Carbine Studios actually responded to a plea to make stuff easier because it was too hard by basically saying deal with it. I'm paraphrasing, by the way. So yeah, if you're looking for a challenge in an MMORPG that actually seems to have learned from the mistakes of others, then Wildstar might be for you. Because unlike recent releases of MMORPGs, Elder Scrolls Online, it is actually polished. It is very well done. It's been in development for insane amounts of time, and now they're finally ready to release it. It has a lot of polish. It is really well put together. It is probably the best contender to WoW ever. With that being said, no, it's not gonna kill WoW. WoW's gonna do that on its own eventually, but they might actually be able to coexist, and I hope that Wildstar sees success. The only thing that could be a downfall for Wildstar at this point is that people are just tired of the genre, and I've heard a lot of people say that even though they really think that Wildstar is a good game, they're just done with MMOs. And that might be the only downfall, but really, if you have any sliver of hope left for the MMO genre, I suggest you at the very least take a more in-depth look at Wildstar. If you enjoyed the video or found it useful, please like, favorite or subscribe. And on that note, I will see you in the next adventure.